Well, good morning. Here we are. It has, wow, it has really absorbed a lot of liquid um, out of the mix. So what I'm going to do is get set up over there by the tree branch where I'm going to do the wringing process, and then I'll start filming again. Okay, so we're out here at the tree. I had it on the plastic initially to drain as much of the mixture back into the bucket as I could, so I can give it a second dunk. But right now I'm just wringing it out, and I moved it to the branch because the plastic was just too slippery and I couldn't get a really good pull on it. I'm being surrounded by flies and yellow jackets now because they both find this rather attractive. So I'm going to stop here and get back to wringing this thing out. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but it's really transforming. Now I've been stretching it, and I'm going to put it back in the bucket for, I don't know, maybe a half hour or so, and then I'll do the final wringing out on this and start the rest of the drying process. All right, it's clouding up now. We still have blue sky, but it's definitely clouding up. Okay, so it's back in the bucket, and it's really hard to submerge it now because it has really taken up a lot of the solution. So I'm gonna put a bucket cover on this so that the flies and bees stay out of it, and I'll be back in a little while. So whilst the hide has been reabsorbing the brain tanning solution, I've been looking around the yard for places that I can work the hide. And I just put this, I made it super tight knot. That was a slip knot, so I could just keep tightening this until there's a lot of tension on it. And I'll be able to hang on this with the hide to help stretch the hide in all different directions. So that's one place. And then there's a really nice smooth poplar tree in my side yard, so I'll be using that as well. And then I'm also investigating possibly using the guy wires for the electric pole at the far end of my yard. So I don't know, I'll be experimenting, and you'll get to see as much of it as I can film whilst doing this work. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how this little loop thing works with the deer hide. Basically, you're hanging it like this and bringing up part of it like that. So it's captured, both ends are captured, and then the sides, there's my dog, the sides are rolled in this way, and it captures the loose end so that the ends are locked in, and then you just keep rolling it. And then what you have is a space through here to put the wringing stick and then be twisting this and twisting it. So that's how that works. I couldn't really show that with the hide this afternoon because it was just so slippery. And also it's not perfectly cut, like, you know, with square ends on it. So anyway, I just wanted you all to see that so you'd understand the loop to make the wringing stick work on a branch to wring out the hide. Okay, so I've been stretching on it, and it's drying out. It's drying out. So I'm not going to be able to film very much right now, but I'll pop in and out as I get a little further along in the drying and stretching process, so you can see how it's transforming. And I just wanted to make note of the fact that I'm using the membrane or inside side of the hide rather than the grain or fur side of the hide against the rough surfaces. And that'll be the same case when I put it on the ropes, or if I go on that guy wire or around that little poplar sapling tree that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, just so you know that part of the situation. Well, it's time to come in and have a little break. Some homemade blueberry ginger kombucha. get rehydrated. Rest just a few minutes while I've got the deer skin hanging over the ropes in the tree, and when we go back outside, I'll show you that. Oh, and some squash seeds drying out over here. So, oh man, that's good. I needed that. All right, hold on. Let's go look at the hide. Okay, so here it is. I've been stretching it by hand. I've been stretching it on the rope. I stretched it on the guy wire. Overall, I'm really happy with, I am not seeing very many thin areas. Now that hole right there, that's where the arrow went in, and then there's some other holes, you know, when we were skinning it and we got a little too thin, those did break apart. But overall it's looking good. And you're probably wondering, well, what does it smell like? Well, it's hard to describe. It smells like a wet animal, with a little bit of eucalyptus Castile soap. So that's the only way I can describe it. Anyway, I'm gonna have to move to the garage because it is super cloudy now, and I just heard some thunder. So gonna move into the garage in case it does start to rain, because this thing needs to dry out, not get wetter. So anyway, that's what's happening. Okay, y'all, I had to come in the house because the temperature dropped 68 Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius, depending on from where you're at. So I got a fire going in the wood stove. I've got a fan going. Temperature's coming up on the stovepipe. So brought my little operation in the house, and hopefully I can set this up so y'all can watch whilst I'm doing this. Okay.
And when SARS came back in the early 2000s, in trying to figure out this natural immunity situation, scientists nowadays went and found people who had SARS, and they drew their blood, and they found that 17 years later, they still had a robust immune response. So in the genetic makeup for SARS-CoV-1, which is SARS, and SARS-CoV-2, which is COVID, there's about a 20% difference between the genetic makeup of those two viruses. And with COVID and with all, when they took their blood over here, there's a 20% difference in these two viruses. And yet those who had SARS and demonstrated that immune response 17 years later, they also found that they were immune to COVID. With the COVID virus, in all of the variants that we know about right now, the furthest genetic makeup that they've been able to identify is 0.3% different than the original virus. It naturally follows that those who have had COVID will absolutely retain natural immunity and do not need to be vaccinated. And I heard this from a gentleman named Dr. Mike Yeadon, Y-E-A-D-O-N. He is the former Chief Science Office and Vice President of Pfizer. And over the last few months, he has come out and started giving interviews because he's terrified by what he's seeing. And I don't want to venture too much into the conspiracy theory area. And if you still think that conspiracy theories are a thing, you are not paying attention. But Dr. Yeadon, and I do not say this lightly, I think he is a hero, and he is terrified by what he is seeing, and he is trying to get the word out. So if you feel like, if you feel like there is any sort of like dark or nefarious stuff going on, please go look up Dr. Yeadon and see what he has to say of COVID. So, we're having all these adverse events, and who knows what the long-term effects are going to be, because in case you haven't noticed yet, despite them saying these are safe and effective, they are not. And we have no idea what the long-term effects are going to be. There are scientists all around the world that are calling to end this vaccine campaign because we have a treatment that is safe and effective, and here we are just pushing mandates. And you have seen the desperation. At first it was voluntary, and then there were incentives like donuts and lottery tickets, and now it is becoming mandatory. What is the point? Currently 70% of African Americans in this country are not vaccinated. These mandates and these vaccine passports will absolutely discriminate against them the most. And in a year where we have spent so much focus on fighting racial injustice and on, advocating for equality and respecting people's right to live however they want to live and identify however they want to identify, it is blowing my mind that we are literally ushering in segregation and discrimination, and people are cheering it on. And if you don't know what the Great Barrington Declaration is, I would look that up too, because over 65,000 doctors and scientists around the world have said that the lockdowns did not work and that they have caused huge detrimental effects. Suicide rates way up, mental health issues way up, lots of people delaying their care because they're afraid to leave the house, or any number of reasons has led to a whole bunch of things that have been missed because people aren't going to their normal appointments. And the lockdowns, there's many reasons that lockdowns don't work, but even if they worked in the short term, you have to look at the risk to life in the long term, and the lockdowns should not happen. Do not comply. Again, regarding these mandates, I just want to read to you the Nursing Code of Ethics, which is, I'm sure there's a medical code of ethics too, but the right to making your own medical decisions and the right to having informed consent stems from the Nuremberg Code, which was done after the Nuremberg trials after the Holocaust. The last time there were crimes against humanity. And at the very forefront of the Nursing Code of Ethics is the right to self-determination, which states that self-determination, also known as autonomy, is the philosophical basis for informed consent in healthcare. Patients have the moral and legal right to determine what will be done with their own person, to be given accurate, complete, and understandable information in a manner that facilitates an informed judgment, to be assisted with weighing the benefits, burdens, and available options in their treatment, including the choice of no treatment, to accept, refuse, or terminate treatment without deceit, undue influence, duress, coercion, or penalty. They are telling those who are unvaccinated that they cannot be a part of society, and that, to me, is duress, coercion, and penalty. And we need to fight this at every level.